Hello, this is Blaster Toad here, and welcome back to the Spline-based platformer tutorial. Been a little while since I jumped into this one. I still have some plans for it. Just been overwhelmed with a little bit of contract work and support for the procedural dungeon generator. Been a lot of questions around it and a lot of people running into issues. That being said, I hope to start doing more regular videos, and this should be the first of them. Today's video is going to be fulfilling a request from Pierre Andre from Patreon. Thank you, Pierre Andre. I don't know whether it's first name, last name, whether that is the hyphenated just first name, whatever it happens to be. Thank you for being a Patreon, and thank you for your request. You guys don't know how much it helps to have people actually ask for stuff, because then I know what you're looking for and what I can do for you. Otherwise, I'm just guessing. So, yeah, keep the requests coming, and then we've got 2 more request videos after this that I'll be making. But, anyway, the request from Pierre Andre is a split in the track. So being able to take branching paths, okay? And we're going to expand our interaction system a little bit so that we can handle that. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up the interactable interface, okay? And we are going to do, what do we got? We got interact, we got get interact ID, we have switch interact. We are going to have MultiState Interact. Okay, and the MultiState Interact is going to have an integer input. We're going to call that integer option. And we're going to, instead of multi-state, call it multi-option interact. Gonna compile and save. Let's see, how did we do our last lever? So when it begins play, it sets its rotation. When we interact, we get all actors. We find out if it has an ID. Okay, cool. So we are going to right-click on our BP lever, and duplicate. We're not going to make a child, we're going to duplicate. And we're going to BP lever multi-option. Okay. Open that up. Now, for our multiple options, we're going to have a new variable. And we are going to have this called options. It is going to be a variable of rotations that's in an array. Okay. And then we're going to have, we'll make that visible. On, off, we're going to delete. We have the ID, we have options, and we're going to have a default option, which is an integer, which is a single item. So what this is doing is choosing an index from here. Okay. So we don't need to do this on tick here. We're going to do an event on begin play. We are going to get default option, get options, get a copy of that. And then we're going to get our lever handle, which is our cube. Actually, no, our cylinder. And with our cylinder, we're going to set relative rotation. And this is just giving us a visual representation of our options. Okay. So it's setting that. We are going to copy that and also put it on our construction script. So as we update our options and we update our default option, it will take place in the editor. Now, when a player interacts with this, what are we going to do? We're going to move all this down the way. We are going to get default option. We are then going to add one to it. We're then going to get options. We are then going to see is valid index. So does this appear in here? And then we're going to select. And if it is valid, if that is true, we are going to select this value we just made. Okay, the added value. So we're just ticking up by 1. If it is false, we are going to set it to 0. So it goes back to the first index option. We're then going to, default option, we want to set that to, not default option, we want to call that current option. There we go. And we're going to set current option. There we are. Then we're gonna loop through everything, blah, 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 do all that, and instead of switch interact, I'm gonna say if our ID is equal, we are going to multi-option interact. And in our multi-option interact, our option is going to be our current option. Okay. And we're going to comment this when interacted with loop to next available option in array, then send option index to paired interface actors. So anything with the same ID, right? Paired interface actors. We're getting that there. Okay. Compile and save. Now we need something that can actually listen to this. So we are going to do a new blueprint class. It'll be an actor. And we're going to call this one BP underscore spline switcher. And this is going to switch between multiple splines. What do we want here? We want a box collision. Okay. We then want to add our interface. So class settings, add interface, I underscore interact. Or interactable in this case. And in our interface, we are going to get interact ID, we're going to promote to variable, and we're going to have ID, which will make a visible variable. Compile and save. And then we want a multi-option interact. We're going to implement that function which will drop us an event right here. And I'm just right-clicking on that implement function. We could also do an event multi and pull it up that way. It does the exact same thing. Okay, now we need another new variable. This one is going to be called Spline Tracks. And it is going to be an array of spline tracks. So we want the spline track actor reference and an array of them. Okay. And then we're going to set target index. We're going to have a new variable target index, which is an integer, just like that. Okay, so when multi-option interact is called, we're going to set target index. Boom. That is all. Easy peasy. Now, we're going to get our box. We're going to come over to the side here. We're going to find on component begin overlap. So when something begins overlapping this, we're going to get the other actor and say, are you a character player? So cast to character player. If it is a character player, we're going to get Spline Track, and then we're going to get our spline tracks here and check contains, and then do a not boolean. So what this is doing is if your spline track component is, oh, damn it. We need to do a function. So we're going to add a function. Test if on player on branched track. Going to be the name of our function. Our input is going to be a spline, and that will be a spline component. So what's stored on our character is a spline component, whereas we are referencing spline actors. So we want a spline component. Then get spline tracks. Then we're going to do a local variable, and we're going to call that track found, and that is going to be a boolean. So set track found false. This is not strictly necessary. If our local variable is defaulted to false, it should always, when we enter this graph, be false. However, this is something I'm just doing for my own safety. We're going to set track found false. Then we're going to, from the spline tracks, for each loop, then we're going to get spline, because each of them have a spline track just called spline, or a spline component called spline. And we're going to see if that spline is equal to this spline. Now we're going to do a nice rewrote node there. Apparently we're going to do another rewrote node just to drop it down to keep everything nice and legible. Okay. And then, if it is true Then we want to set track found to true. And if we want to make this even better, instead of in a for each loop, we're going to do a for each loop with break. And we're just going to plug that in instead. And the difference here is if we find something, come in here, and we can stop it going through the rest. So if index 0, the very first item, equals this incoming spline, then we don't have to search through the other splines in that array. Okay? Shouldn't be a big issue because I don't imagine you having hundreds of branching paths off a single node here, or off a single hub, I guess. Like, yes, the word node fits, but also we're working with node. But anywho, I don't expect you to have multiple branching paths more than, like, say 3 or 4, right? Because otherwise it's just going to get messy. But this way it doesn't have to track or check through the rest of them. Then on complete, we are going to have an output. So we're going to click on our input. We're going to have an output. And this is going to be not on branch. And that is going to be a Boolean. So when it's completed, oh, I don't want to mess with you. You go back to where you were. We're going to come here, and we're going to our track found not. So what we're doing is, was there a track found? If a track is found, it will flip that to a false, so not on branch will be false because it is on a branch track. If a track is not found, it will flip that to a true, and then not on branch will be true. But yeah, this is the way. If let's just draw a quick thing. So we bring up paint. What we're looking at is we've got our track coming in, and then we're going to hit this box. And from this box, we go here, and we go here, and we go here. Okay, well, what if our player is here, traveling this way? When it hits the box, we don't want it to be put on one of these tracks. This is saying, hey, when I hit the box, am I already on one of these tracks? Yes, do nothing. No? Okay, then you're coming from this way, and we want to put you on one of these tracks. Okay, so that's what we're making right now. So that's our function. We're going to get our function here, test player on branch. And then we're going to branch off that. And if it's not on branch, then we want to do our spline track. We want to get a copy of our target index, which has been set by our multi-option interact. Right. Then from that, we want to get spline. And then I need to reference our spline tracks, how they work. So spline track. We call enter spline. Okay, perfect. Okay. Cool. Because we have the option of 2 different splines here, right? So, spline tracks, and we're going to duplicate that, and we're going to have camera tracks. Okay, check is valid. And then we're going to do a select. So if it is not valid, we're going to use spline track. If it is valid, then we're going to get spline. Let's just double check that. That is a spline component. That is a spline component. Yeah, target spline. Yes, perfect. Yes. Straight into is valid. Come on, it's slightly crooked. I can see it. It's bugging me. But if that is valid, then true. So all we're doing is taking the same thing from our spline track, but we're getting our information instead of set splines from an array. And then our player, we are going to do enter spline. And our spline is going to be that one, and our camera spline is going to be that one. Cool. Something else we need to do. Let's go back to our multi-lever or lever multi-option. On begin play, when we set the relative rotation, we are also going to come down here. So we don't want to move forward in the count. We just want to use the current count, but we want to set the first option or our current option on all of the actors out there that it could affect. Okay. File save. Spline switcher. Okay. So spline tracks and camera tracks. We want on target index. We don't need to worry about. Cool. So now let's So our player start is in between things. When the player starts, event graph, event begin play, on actor camera, make a HUD. How does our player know what track they're on? Do we have to do anything special on there? Player controller, camera, view target, player controller. Spline track, construction script, enter spline. Input, spline track is valid, do things. Ah. How does our character know that this is the right spline track? Oh, because we have them entering as soon as they move. They're getting put on a spline. That's how. Right. Duh. Okay. So let's grab a new spline track. A new spline right here. And we're gonna bring it out some. We want to veer this way, sure. And then we are going to do another new spline track. And I want to mostly line them up. That was a tool I should make for this tutorial series, is something that'll line up your splines real nice. But yeah, we're just going to do the manual, old-fashioned way, line up our spline. Beautiful. And then we want this one coming out this way. I don't want a massive tangent on it, so we're going to come out like this. We're going to curve it out though, so maybe I do want a massive tangent. And then Alt and drag for my next spline point, and then we're going to bring it back in. Okay, so we're just curving out a bit, and then we're coming pretty much back in line. Like that. Okay. Then I'm going to select the spline track, Control C, Control V. We should now have a second one of those, and I'm going to take its middle and delete it, so we just have a straight one. And then Control C, Control V, and we'll take its end and move it back this way. And then we'll come forward some back, and we're gonna have like a wobbly one, because why not? Come on. And then one more to bring us back to here. Beautiful. Okay, and then we want some geometry just so we can see where we are. So we're gonna add a cylinder between those two. So this way we'll know if we're in front or behind the cylinder. We know which one we're on. And then if we're on the wiggly one, we'll know which one we're on. But hey, we'll also put a couple cones, so we know if we're in front of the cone, we're on the wiggly track. If we're behind the cone, then we're on the straight track. Beautiful. That's not what I want at all. I want to select the spline point and then Alt drag. There we go. Okay. And then I'll grab my start box. Come on. I want to select Spline Start. There we go. Yes, perfect. So on Spline Start. Oh, it's actually set at the start now. Right. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Just remembering all the tools I've set up. So I want the Spline Start, and I'm just gonna make it a little bit larger. And our Spline End, I'm gonna make a little bit larger. also bring back some. And then for all these splines, we want to take the, come on. Do I have that where I can turn it off? Construction script. Ah, yes, I can set manual update. Okay. If I select Spline Track, where is camera spline? None. Collision offset? None. Is manual update? No. I don't have it visible. Okay. If manual update is on, then it gets turned off. If manual update is off, that doesn't help anything. We're just gonna break link there. So if manual update is on, you have to manually set things. If manual update is off, it'll automatically set things. That makes more sense. And I'm going to turn off manual update on these ones. So I can take the Spline Start and go like, wheat, way up there. And then same thing with the other one, Spline Start. Whoop. Because we are not going to be using these. Because that is all going to be handled by our other thing. The same thing with Spline End. We're going to move it out of the way. Come on, select. Select, damn you. Oh, because I'm on the one that has our... Yeah. Smart me. Smart. And then we should have the one last one right there. Come on. There we go. Spline End. Oops. Come on. The Spline End box, and we're going to move it. Beautiful. Okay. So this one here. Come on. Give me... Okay, Spline it. No. I want this. Spline, there we go. Spline End. I'm going to move it back some. Because I don't want it being interfered with by stuff. I actually need to make it narrower. Yeah, should be fine. Okay. Now we're going to take our BP multi-lever option is there. BP spline switcher. Our BP spline switcher is going to sit as our front trigger box. So when you walk into this area, you're going to be switched onto one of the other splines. Beautiful. Just like that. Then we are going to add spline tracks. And our option 0 will make this one. Come on. There we go. Option 2 will make this one. And option 3 will make our curvy-do. There we are. Then we're going to take our multi-lever option that we're going to have just right here, sure. And then from our multi-level option, we're going to take our Interact trigger box and actually put it on the spline. So it makes a bit more sense. And now we need to add our options, which I don't think I made visible. Yeah, options should be visible. Okay. Oh, because I've got a subcomponent selected. So multi-level options. we want option 1 to be, what, 90 on there? Nope. 90 on X. Yes. 90 on Y. Nope. 0 Y, I think. And then we want a 90 on Z. Okay. So, option 1 is going to be this side. You want something like a negative 30? Positive 30. There we go. Option 2 is centered. We're going to go 90 and 90. And 0. And then 90, neg 30, 90. For option 3, our ID, because I can't remember what our other IDs are at, we are going to do this one as 969, because that was the name of a TV show I used to watch. And 969. Cool. And I am going to give myself something on the ground to see when I know I'm in the trigger area. I'm not guessing. Right there. So if I'm on that, I know I'm in the trigger area. Beautiful. And then we are going to take our player start. I'm going to move it right over here. So I'm on there. Arg. So that is our left select. No? Why are you not changing? That should work. We're going to do a print hello. Yeah, it should be flipping. Oh, because we need to run this to actually see it update. Actually, so you know what that means. It means we don't need that. And we can just go event begin play, come in there. We'll tidy this up in a bit if it works. So you should be able to say, okay, option left, or option away from us, option middle, option close to us. And then it should cycle back through. Yeah. Okay. So let's take the wavy route. And we're taking the wavy route. Okay. Let's go back through. And our thing is not set up to go back, but hey. So now it should be the far route. Let's see if we take the far route. We take the far route. Beautiful. That one works fine. And then we'll take the middle route. We should take the middle route. Yes. Let's take the wiggly route. We take the wiggly route. Beautiful. We're just gonna shuffle this all down. And shuffle you down a wee bit more. And then straighten that off and straighten that off. Straighten that off. No. There we go. So we just made a switchable track. Awesome. You could do the same thing with using, say, like the paid lever. Doing the same idea as the paid lever. and then that way to take an alternate track, you might have to pay for it. So if you have, say, your coins carrying over level to level, then that paid route may only be available when you go back and play it again if your coins keep accruing, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But yeah, that is a switchable track in just 43 minutes. Sorry it took so long, but hopefully it's in-depth enough that it gives you a good understanding of how it was set up and why we did the things we did in it. That's also why it took me 5 attempts to make this video. So sorry, I said I'd do it yesterday, but I did a couple times, and then my roommate went to bed, so I couldn't do this final take on it. And now, hey, beautiful, we got a final take. The only issue I see with doing the switchable path like this is you do need it on both sides. Right? So you need to have this switcher thing over here as well. You can, on the switch, set your current option. So if I say I wanted the middle option to be default, set that to option 1, or set it to option 2 to take the wavy path first. And then you have to like pay to take one of the more straightforward paths. You could have a coin thing like that. But yeah, that there is our switchable paths. I know I promised an enemy video. I will get around to making it. It's just finding the time at this point. I know COVID left us with a lot of time, most of us, but right now I've got other things happening in my life that that time is not super readily available for me, so sorry about that. Yeah, I can't think of anything else there, so I guess this is Toad's regular rambly sign-off. So I'll see you in the next one. And Gimme and other person that made a request. Gimme and Ducati Steve. Or sorry, not Gimme. C&D Cardboard and Ducati Steve. Your requests will come soon enough. I'm coming for you. But like in a C-O-M-E way. Like come. Not the other. Yeah, never mind. Goodbye.